we bring in a friend who we've known for years and years and years. He's an author, relationship therapist, Dr. R.G. Alan Wilson.
Some expert advice on how we can all talk to them. Joining us now is relationship expert Dr. R.G. Alan Wilson. She's the author of Courageous Conversations Connect. Good morning, R.G.
Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Janelle. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And as we mentioned, a lot of people just dealing with anxiety during all of this. What are your suggestions?
Some of the things that we need to remember is that this is temporary. This is temporary inconvenience for long-term gain. And as long as we stay healthy, Janelle, then everything else is recoverable.
Talk to your children about what's happening right now. What are the best ways to do that?
There's some do's and don'ts, right? So you want to tell them that you're going to be here. We're going to be okay. Kids want to know that they're secure and they're safe. So predictability, structure, and consistency. You also want to let them know you have a plan. And even if you don't have a plan, tell them that you're working on one. Good morning, everybody. This is Monday morning, May 4th, 2020. And this is the Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having our quarantine talks. And I'm Dr. RG. So good morning. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, IG family, for joining, and all my Facebook family, as well as our YouTube family. We are going to have a great conversation because this is the first week of May. Believe it or not, this is our 8th week in quarantine for our quarantine talks, and this is the 30th day that we've done this. It seems like yesterday that we were just putting this together. Thank you for my hearts. Please give me my hearts, smiley faces, and thumbs up, if you will. Also share this. Maybe go over to the YouTube page and hit subscribe and the notification button. Let other people know that we're here. We're going to shift and take a quick break for our sponsors. We're going to be right back. We've got a great conversation, so stay with us. All right, so we are right back in our quarantine talks. Good morning, Gwinnetta. Thank you for joining us. This is our time. Good morning, Charla is on. This is our time. It's our time to have quarantine talks. Can you all believe it? IG family, Facebook family, YouTube family, can you all believe that it's now going on 8 weeks? We have now moved into the spring. Summer is coming. The weather was beautiful this weekend, and that created a little bit of a quandary for us, right? With the weather being so great and everybody wanting to go out and enjoy. How do you do that in the middle of a quarantine? Let's not forget that we've talked about this being a marathon, not a sprint, right? And that this little bugger called the coronavirus, this little bugger, that's what I'm calling it, the coronavirus, COVID-19 is still out there. We cannot forget, we cannot slip, we cannot go back to the way that we once were just yet, perhaps never. So we have to readapt, right? You all know by now, 8 weeks in, everybody should know this verbatim, right? Accept, adjust, adapt, acknowledge, or appreciate rather, and then have a new attitude, acknowledge your new attitude, those 5 things. So that is part of this process, really thinking about, okay, weather's getting nicer, I'm getting a cabin fever, I've abided by the rules, I've kind of stayed within the guidelines of this social distancing and the quarantine spaces that I needed to be in to keep myself and everyone else that I love safe. And now I just want to break out. Well, guess what? You can't. None of us can just yet. We just can do the things that I believe allow us to be healthy and safe simultaneously. You all know I always talk about a reframe, right? Reframes are good. It's taking the information that we have and it's reframing it so that it fits the guidelines, if you will, the narrative that, or quite frankly, fits our reality. So for many of us, we in the very beginning, and maybe even still, are saying we're stuck at home or we're cooped up at home. Hey, Basil, good morning. But really, we're not. We're safe at home. And we also know that many people are not afforded the opportunity to socially distance. Everybody can't do that. There are people in third world countries that can't socially distance. There are people in, the urban and rural parts of even America that are not able to socially distance. There's homeless population that can't socially distance. And then we've got our essential workers and our people on the front lines that they're unable to socially distance because they're the ones responsible for our groceries and our pharmacists, our medications. They're the ones that are responsible for our transportation system. So that is allowing us to get to where we need to go for those people who are not fortunate enough to have maybe their own vehicle. And so we have to do our due diligence. This is a practice in determination, what we're experiencing, and we're still in the midst of it. It's a practice of being resilient. It's a practice of having grit. It's a practice of being, standing the test of time, really. What do you have that allows you to still honor the constraints that we need to do in the midst of this quarantine, while finding places and spaces that you can hang out that are safe. I think Morgan was talking to our neighbors and we were saying how privileged we are to be able to have a yard to hang out in. Some of you all saw that I took we took some R&R. The hubby really did a phenomenal job on this weekend while I was doing some work on Saturday and prepared such a beautiful meal, and also a fire pit that we hadn't used in a while. And we just had a really nice time hanging in the yard. And yet we're acutely aware that that's not the experience of everyone. And so we need to be mindful. We need to be careful. We need to be considerate of others. And as we keep ourselves safe, we also keep others safe. So that really is the goal. You all, I'm not sure if you're aware, and continue to please like and share this post because we really want everyone to experience it. We recognize that many people are working from home or they're essential workers. They cannot be on this broadcast at 10 o'clock in the morning, but because you can share it with them. And that's gonna, I believe, bless someone who may not be here in real time, but if you share it, then they experience it through the archives or through your post. So please do that for us. And, this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I really wanted to take this entire week, and I want you all to think about, one, what we do, we start off with breathing. So we're still going to do that. And you want to tell me who you're breathing for today, what essential worker, what family member, is there anyone that's sick that does have COVID? The cases have been rising since some of the states have been opening up. So who are you breathing for in addition to yourself? And then I want you all to think about our conversation that we're going to have all week in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to focus on how to talk to our loved ones about, and I say ... as it relates to mental health awareness. Today, it's going to be reducing anxiety and stress, because I think that most people have a level of anxiety that is just unacceptable and not healthy for our mental health and well-being, and how to reduce our stressors. We can't talk enough about that, quite frankly, because we live in a world that has extreme stress, right? And we experienced that, quite frankly, before COVID-19, when things were moving so fast that many of us couldn't keep up. And I would see and hear in my practice a lot that people were overwhelmed. So tell me, and Dominique is on. Hey, Dominique, good morning. Tell me who you're breathing for. Let's get into our breathing positions. I was sort of talking to just get more people on. Loosen up, straighten your back. Tell me, is there someone that you specifically want us to breathe in oxygen We breathe in oxygen. We breathe in goodness and kindness and care and serenity and peace and love. We breathe all those good messages into ourselves, right? Our mind, body, and spirit is all connected. And then we breathe out the things that we don't want. Carbon dioxide, which is not good for us. We also breathe out worry and fear and pain and stress and frustration, disappointment, hurt, and anger. We breathe out all of those things, because if we carry those negative emotions or those toxic emotions inside of us, then if we become somewhat like a ticking time bomb. So that's what we breathe out. Who are you all breathing for? And how are you taking in good energy for yourself? Maybe you're breathing in for yourself. As we loosen up, as we straighten our backs, you know the drill. I count to 3. We breathe in through our nose. We hold it for 10 seconds if we can. If you can't, then you let it out within the time frame that you can. Maybe it's 5 seconds. Through the mouth, the breath out, and then we do it all over again 5 different times, okay? All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. And out. That was a good one. Breathe in. And out. Breathe in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Breathe in through the nose. And out. One last time, make it count, guys. Breathe in. And out. Ah, that was good. Did you feel that in your belly? Did you feel that oxygen? Did you feel it going in and then coming out? I want you all to practice that throughout the day. We're practicing that because that breath that we take in, 1, other people who get this virus cannot breathe, but 2, that's something that we take for granted. We shallow breathe all the time, and we don't take in enough oxygen. We need oxygen to go to our essential organs, our brain, our heart, our lungs, throughout our veins to carry oxygen through our body. So continue to do that. Megan says, I'm breathing for the young people in my family who are exposed unwillingly to the toxicity in their homes. Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that, Megan. For sure, there are many young people that don't know that they're exposed and then they're carrying the virus, but we're going to talk a little bit about how we expose other things as well. So I appreciate that. And Dominique says, I'm breathing for my family. I have several cousins who are suffering with mental health challenges. Thank you for that. Dominique is breathing for her family, many of them that are suffering from mental health challenges. And so when we think about this toxicity that we have throughout our environment, not just physical toxins that are going throughout the atmosphere, but mental toxins, where we're in environments that are not healthy for us, where we are sometimes forced to be quarantined in places and spaces where people are not the healthiest mentally. This is National Mental Health Awareness. The truth is that the month of May, the truth is many people do not take into consideration that mental health matters. It really does. And we tend to focus on the physical health, right? Maybe the spiritual health, but mind, body, and spirit. Interesting enough, they say mind first. Mind, right? What's going on here? Body and spirit all matter. It's all connected. More.
Yeah, some IG love. I believe we have Sheila. She's on.
Hey, Sheila.
She's on.
Hey,
Yeah.
my sister. Good morning.
She said good morning, Arjetta.
Mhm.
That's her nickname.
Mhm.
All right.
Sheila calls me Arjetta. That's her nickname.
Okay. And she says that she breathe for those in the waiting room, waiting for results. All right.
Oh, she's
We
breathing
got,
for people waiting for results in the
yeah.
waiting room. Okay.
Somebody named Buy and Sell with Candy. Oh, Candy.
Oh, Candy. Good morning, Candy.
Chest just got tight. Ooh. Okay. I guess she was breathing.
Breathing. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And let's see what else. That's basically it. So IG's on. So
Awesome.
family and friends on IG.
Awesome. Good morning, IG family. Make sure you let people know that we're on IG as well. You guys give me the thumbs up, smiley faces, hearts. Let me know and share this so that if other people cannot watch this in real time, that they can watch it on your platforms as well. If you all would, we'd appreciate it for you to go over to the YouTube page and hit the subscribe, and then hit the notification button. We have more content that's coming to you. The reason why I chose us to talk specifically this week about our mental health, interesting enough, Shirley Ralph Hughes, I did a segment with her on Saturday night, I think.
Saturday night.
Yeah, it was late
Saturday
Saturday night on IG, and she's actually going to be coming on to this show as well. As Morgan is working really hard to put some guests. So maybe towards the end of this week or next week, we're going to be having guests on the show. She'll be coming on. She always says that we need to get a checkup from the neck up. And I really like that. I mean, it's a funny spin on words, but it's really a way to identify that we need to check on our mental health. We need to check, as you know, I always say, check on the strong ones, check on those persons that are always there for everyone else. I told you towards the end of the week, we talked specifically about this woman, Dr. Lauren Bren, who was an ER doctor. She was an ER doctor in one of the hospitals in New York City. And when I read her story, it just brought me to tears. She was an avid skier. She threw a big party, they said, on her rooftop in Manhattan once a year for all of her friends. She used to go to a nursing home once a week to just take care of the people who may be in the more vulnerable population. She just seemed, by all accounts, based on what I heard from the people that got to know her, and along with her father, who was also a physician, they said that she was living her best life. She was doing what she always wanted to do, and she was at the top of her career. She came down with COVID-19. She recovered at home for a week and a half, and then wanted to get back in the fight against this disease. And so she went back to work, but she went back before she was ready. She was not completely healed. How many of us go back into places and spaces before we're not ready? That's what happened to her. And when they realized that she was not well, they sent her back home. And then when they sent her back home, she ended up with her family, and she actually took her life like a week ago this past Sunday. And so I thought that we've got to talk about, what this experience that we're all having together is doing to our mental health. And my goal is for us to talk about and be real transparent about the ways in which it has impacted us mentally and the things that we can actually do to help us. So we're going to talk about that when we come right back. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsors. Stay with us. We're going to be talking about mental health matters and how to have conversations with your loved ones about your anxiety and your stress. Stay with us.
Growing a business can be overwhelming. However, it doesn't have to be difficult. With the right resources, task becomes easier and the rewards are great. EasyMake Systems makes online marketing and business management less confusing and more affordable. We've placed all the necessary components to make your job easier. Our EasyMake website builder gives you the ability to create stunning websites or landing pages. Utilize our EasyMake Social to stay current with social media and our EasyMake Mail to drive more engagement through emails. How about creating 24/7 customer service with our EasyMake bots to be there whenever your customer needs to reach you? And more importantly, you can access all of our software on an easy-to-use dashboard that gives easy access from one location. EasyMake Systems is your single source solution.
COVID. I was saying, good morning. I'm back, and this is our quarantine talks, and we're about to dig into, and I was talking to the IG family who are not necessarily on this platform, thinking about, and I'd love to hear from you, do you have difficulty talking with your family members about mental health? I do have many clients, quite frankly, that sometimes have difficulty sharing what they're going through. Who's your person? Everybody needs to have a person. I believe everybody the way you'd never go without seeing your dentist at least twice a year, right? I go 4 times a year. You never not go to your medical doctor, right? But oftentimes many of us don't have a mental health professional. We don't have someone who can help us to process our anxiety, our fears, our depression, those kinds of things. The stressors that we're incurring. And as those stressors continue, we become our own tinderboxes, right? What I mean by that is that the pressure continues to build up so much that we have 2 options at some point, either to explode or to implode. If we explode, then that's not good because other people catch our wrath. If we implode, then that leads to depression. But then there's another option. There's a third option. The third option is to talk about it, to process what's going on, to let family members know that, this is what's happening for you with regards to your mental health. I think that we in our community, to be honest with you, for far too long, we have suffered in silence around our mental health issues. For far too long, we have not gotten the memo that there's help available to us with regards to mental health professionals. Shout out, and I should have said this, I'm always not only breathing for those essential workers that are on the front lines in terms of the medical staff, but I'm always breathing for those that are on the front lines, those other mental health professionals that are actually in the trenches, working hard against this fight with this virus to help other people with their mental health and well-being. That's really, really important when we think specifically about how our mental health and wellness impacts not only ourselves, but it impacts a whole lot of other people. So how do you talk to your family members when you're stressed out? Have you tried to do that during this last 8 weeks? Anxieties have been through the roof. Stressors have been, exponentially expanded, right? Because none of us has ever been here before. None of us has ever dealt with a pandemic to this level. Perhaps these other viruses like Ebola and Zika and H1N1 and SARS, we've dealt with those too. But I don't recall when the entire world was shut down, right? Literally, there were places and spaces that were shut down. I also don't recall when our nation specifically was shut down. And now where many of us are dealing with the anxiety of how do we navigate going back into the population and who's safe and who's not, because that's the interesting quandary for this particular virus, that so many people are asymptomatic. They have it and they don't know, and they can be spreaders or carriers, or they have it and they do know, some of their family members have it and they're not sure how to do the quarantine because they're not really set up for it. So that increases the level of anxiety. I can tell you when I'm less anxious when I'm at home, but when I do go out, and I'm very protected with my mask and my gloves, I usually go out with Morgan. If we have to do some errands for our loved ones or for ourselves, maybe going to the grocery store, although he goes out a lot more than I do, for the essential things like going to the banking and our post office and, groceries and things like that. But there's some anxiety for me too around that. But anxiety can then spill over into more significant challenges. Our stressors can continue to get elevated in a way that doesn't allow us to be as healthy. And then there's displacement. When we talk about displacement, what does that look like? It looks like somebody's displacing onto you their anxiety. Have you ever been in a situation, and y'all, I'd love for you to hear your stories, because everybody's got a story where you're fine, but whoever you live with, it has elevated levels of anxiety, or their stress is getting the best of them, and then they displace it on to you. So you're not really able to help them because they're projecting everything onto you. So there's a couple things, and I want to certainly hear from you. You all tell me, give me your thumbs up, your likes if this is making sense to you, smiley faces, hearts, share this information, share. It really helps with our algorithms. Also go over to the YouTube page and subscribe. What's your story? Tell me if you had in 8 weeks, because I can't imagine that I'm the only one here. And I'm trained to help others as well as myself to manage anxiety. Have you had a scenario where your anxiety got the best of you? Have you had a scenario where the stressors got mounting, whether the stressors were financial stressors, or you didn't know whether, if you had been furloughed, whether you were going to be, get your job back? Have you had anxiety when you continue to watch maybe too much news and the death toll continued to rise, or the cases of COVID-19 continue to escalate? Many people were doing too much of that, and that was increasing their anxiety. Those scenarios aren't helpful. And if you don't have anybody, I always say you got to talk it out so you don't act it out or act it in. That is really, really key. And for many of us, some people don't feel like they have the safest places to process what's happening for them. For many people, they may live in a house. Have you ever experienced this or talked to someone that they were living in a house with someone, but they couldn't share with them what was happening to them? They felt like that person didn't fully understand them, or didn't appreciate what they were experiencing, or didn't care. And so or quite frankly, they just had issues of their own. So they couldn't be your person. Everybody has to have somebody that they can process what they're experiencing. So tell me what your story is. How have you dealt with the anxiety? Have you acted it out? Have you talked it out? Again, I say, talk it out so you don't act it out, or so you don't act it in. Right? Acting it out is everybody catches it. Acting it in is that you get withdrawn, and you don't talk about the issues the way that you need to.
Talk about your Mel Robbins
Balloons? Okay. And that aired a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to repost that today. I'm going to post that today so that you guys can see it. Yeah, so we did an exercise on the Mel Robbins show where we were talking about people's anxiety. It was a balloon exercise, and the balloon exercise was there were 3 balloons. One was huge, right? One was a medium-sized balloon, and one was a really small balloon. And we talked specifically with folks about the one balloon getting popped, which is that when you actually allow the hot air to continue to grow in the balloon, the pressure of all of that anxiety gets to be too much, and then it just pops. And when it pops, you don't know where that aggression, that anxiety, where that energy is going. It explodes. You don't know where it's going to land. You don't know who it's going to land on. You don't know how that's going to impact the other people. The other balloon, the medium-sized balloon, we talk specifically about the implosion. So explosion, implosion, meaning that you're just holding on to that negative energy, that anxiety is this, when we were doing the breathing exercise and someone said their chest was tight, that's what it feels like, that it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and there's no place for it to go, and it becomes extremely overwhelmed. That's how people typically describe it. I just feel overwhelmed. I just feel like I can't get a handle on things. Things are spiraling out of control. So that's what happens with that implosion. And that then decreases or causes us to feel sometimes more and more depressed, which we're going to talk about later in the week. And then the final balloon was a balloon that I liked, right? Because what I symbolized was that we start letting the hot air, letting the anxiety, letting the stressors out. one by one, by finding strategic ways, whether it's talking to a therapist, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditating, whether it's doing something that we like, whether it's just resting. Quite frankly, yesterday was a day of rest where I didn't do any work. We didn't talk, Maureen and I didn't talk about work. We didn't do any work. We just rested. And that was kind of letting some of the anxiety out so that we could get fueled up to fight another day. Billy Joe says a family member in the household is getting unemployment and others, they don't get it. People get resentful and angry. Okay. So I think what Billy Joe, you're saying is when some people are getting money or getting unemployment so that they are able to, pay their bills and things like that, and they're in the house where other people aren't, then that creates some tension, perhaps some anger and resentment. It's very interesting that you say that, because I do think that is true. What do you do when you're in a household where there's some conflict, there's some resentment? You do have to find ways to talk about that. If you don't, then that tension is going to not dissipate. So processing that, trying to have a courageous conversation. There's a whole segment in the book called the resentment flu. Which is really, I want you all to pay attention to that term. It's a really good term that really speaks to how our resentment continues to build and build and build. And sometimes it's like the flu. It does not impact us in a way that's healthy for us. Karen says, I've had anxiety thinking about how I'm going to meet my DKC now with all these new restrictions. How will I meet him? And if I do, how would that dating or courting process be? Karen's talking about, now when she says DKC, what she's talking about is Morgan and I, we have a term called DKC, stands for different kind of cat, different kind of chick, right? There's a whole story behind that, which was on our first date. He said to me, listen, I don't know if you can handle me because I'm a different kind of cat. And I said, well, I'm a different kind of chick. So that makes us, very congruent for each other. And then we started dating, and the first, I think, holiday or birthday that he had, I bought him some cufflinks that said DKC. And that's sort of been our way of connecting. So Karen knows that we say DKC elephant juice. You might have seen those on our hashtags. So her anxiety, I think, for a lot of other people who are single is, how are you going to meet someone out there? Well, here's what I would say about that. That is anxiety because the dating is going to look different. But here's what COVID-19 has caused us to be able to do. It's caused us to begin to work on having a love affair with ourselves, right? Because if we give off the things that in the universe that we want back. And if we're doubling down on learning to love ourselves, learning to like ourselves, appreciating ourselves, doing the things that we need to do to build ourselves up, then we put ourselves in right position to be available at that time when the country opens up and when we find, because trust me, there will be new ways to date. There will always be. Now we have social media. There will be ways that that the universe will figure that out. You just need to be ready. There's a lot of times when people are not ready. And so the opportunity comes. The question is, will you be ready? But the anxiety is real, and I don't want to negate that. Yes, babe.
Okay, so IG over here. Let's see here. Candy says she's struggling. All right, that's what she's saying. And then Allison says, this not seeing people thing is killing me. She goes on to say, I went to the mall to put clothes in the collection bin. I saw two groups of teens sitting in the mall parking lot, socially distancing together. Which is kind of unique. And a lot of teens, they don't socially distance.
So they were in the parking lot, like in the cars, socially distancing?
Yeah,
okay.
Describe it for me. That's, I'm assuming that's what she said. And then Sheila goes on to say, how do you identify anxiety in the midst of it all beyond feelings of being overwhelmed? Okay. So Candy said she was struggling. Did she said she was struggling with, or just struggling with anxiety? Struggle. So Candy's saying she's struggling. Of course, we've all struggling with some level. And I think the key here, which I appreciate what Candy's saying, is that you've got to acknowledge it. You got to name it, right? Sometimes what happens is that we don't acknowledge it. We don't name it. We don't claim it. We push it away like it doesn't exist.
And then when it gets to be too much, then we do the imploding or the exploding, and other people don't really fully understand what's happening. So I appreciate Candy being authentic and saying that she is struggling. As far as, I think you said Allison might have said that, yeah, she said she was in the parking lot, but she's struggling with the social distancing thing. And I think that, quite frankly, Allison, we all are struggling with the social distancing because none of us, or Sheila, was it Sheila?
Sheila was saying, I think Sheila, I want to make sure I get Sheila's question. She said, how do you identify anxiety in the midst of it all beyond feelings of being overwhelmed?
Yeah. Okay. So both Allison and Sheila speak to dealing with the feelings of anxiety amidst everything. I mean, it really is overwhelming. So I'm not going to, lie to you guys and say that it's not a real thing. It is a real thing. What we're experiencing is real. There really are those silver linings in all of this. And there's a way, I believe, in which we can grow through this, but we have to acknowledge that it is a thing, that sometimes we do get overwhelmed. And this is why I actually wanted to talk about how do we talk with our loved ones, because oftentimes if we can have a real conversation, if we can have an authentic conversation, if we can acknowledge that we're either fearful or anxious or that our stressors have gotten elevated. And quite frankly, if we can ask for what we need or the thing that might make us feel a little bit better. Sometimes, quite frankly, if someone just understands, if they can have empathy for what you're going through, it can help dissipate that a little bit, because some of it's chemical, right? It's chemical imbalance. We all experience it at times. Remember when you were a teenager and when you were hormonal? Well, we experience that in midst of crisis as well. The cortisol levels increase, the adrenaline levels increase because we're in this fight and it doesn't feel good. That shuts down other ways in which we can be healthy. So therefore, we're not creating or emitting the other hormones that are healthy for us, like the serotonin and the dopamine and the oxytocin. Those are the hormones that help us to feel a little bit better. And so we need to be able to talk it out, process that, own it, give yourself permission to feel it and express it. And if it's somebody in your household that can't experience it with you or feels like, I don't have time for this, then you've got to find someone perhaps outside of your household and utilize the social media platforms in order to connect with them. Dominique says, I need to talk to talk something through. Or if I need to talk something through, then I ask the person I want to talk to if they have an emotional bandwidth to spare. I like that. I like that, Dominique, emotional bandwidth, because here's what I take from that. Some people don't. Some people don't have the emotional bandwidth. Some people are going through problems themselves. That doesn't mean that they are horrible people. It just means that maybe they're not the person for you to express what you need to express at that time, right? And I want to take a few moments to highlight, and I think Sheila was on, who's a wonderful clinician that's doing the work. Oftentimes, Dr. Tina Scott comes on the platform as well. There are clinicians that are out there, so that if you don't feel that you will have someone, as Dominique says, that has the emotional bandwidth, utilizing that platform of telehealth, mental telehealth, to talk with someone who does have the emotional bandwidth to hear what you're saying, to help you process what you're feeling, and to give you some strategies and techniques to decrease that anxiety and those stressors and live healthier, like mentally, is really, really important. Dominique said that helps me to be considerate of that other person's anxiety, and also helps me to manage my expectations to prevent myself from being disappointed. Absolutely. Man, as you remember last week, we talked about purging, right? And one of the topics specifically was managing our expectations or recalibrating our expectations, even limiting our expectations, so that we're not allowing ourselves to get disappointed. Because our anxiety, I don't know if you all can attest to this, but I know that I do have anxiety when I want more for people than they want for themselves. That there's some real anxiety that over the years that really impacted me when I wanted so desperately for people to get it And that happened even in the midst of COVID, where I was saying, okay, wear your mask and wear your gloves. And this is what you need to do to social distance. And here's some Lysol wipes. And, I was running around kind of almost making myself crazy. And then I realized, I've done all that I can do. I've done the best that I can do. The rest is up to prayer, because prayer helps. Sometimes just having your own spiritual connection to bring your anxiety down, doing your mindfulness and meditation, not overextending yourself, because you have to be self-preserving as well. And then recognizing that we don't have control over other people. We can only control ourselves. Candy said, that's very considerate of you. Most people just jump on me without asking if I have emotional bandwidth to handle their stuff. True. And Candy is one of my very dearest friends. And so I know part of that. And remember, I said in the very beginning and last week, look out for the strong one. Candy's one of those people, right? And Dominique's one of those people. Probably Allison's one of those people. I'm one of those people. You got to look out for the strong ones. And the truth is that the strong people like Candy, who is so loving and so caring. By the way, just as a little bit of note, if you all have any, a young person who's graduating, we're going to be posting this all throughout the week as well. Candy is doing a Save Prom. She's a school teacher. She's a photographer.
Save or safe?
Save.
Save Prom.
Save Prom. Yeah.
Okay.
Save Prom. So many of the students have been, had anxiety because this is their big milestone of graduating, and now they don't have prom or graduation. So she's actually saving prom and graduation by setting it up in a location where you can go onto the link. We'll post that. And you can sign up to actually dress up, and she will take photos of you, on socially distant photos of you, as if you were in prom, on your prom. So that's going to happen. I think not next week, but the week after. We'll have exact information for you. So I think that's a wonderful idea. You'll hear a lot more about that. But the other thing I wanted to share with you specifically, which Candy highlighted, is that those strong ones, we as strong people have to create some boundaries in order to save ourselves, right? So what that means sometimes is that you can't, even if somebody calls you up and they're ready to talk because they know that you're the person that they're always going to, be mindful. I wanted to give you some information about tapping into the things that can reduce your anxiety, but you've got to be mindful of what boundaries you need to set, because other people may not, and you may have socialized them to be the go-to person. So they're only doing what you taught them, because we teach people how to treat us. So now you've got to re-socialize them in order to step down from that position of them always coming to you. Yes, babe?
Your cousin says, having a creative outlet is a lifesaver. Working in the hospital brings my anxiety to the roof. I come home, pop my laptop open, and start producing music. Great escape. So, yeah,
I love that. So my cousin Craig said that being creative, that's one of the things that we can do to decrease our anxiety. So he works in a hospital. It's a lot of anxiety for those essential workers. So we are breathing for him. And so what he does to reduce that anxiety, and everybody has to have their thing, what they do to reduce it, is that he creates music, and that helps to reduce his anxiety. What I'm planning on, but I haven't gotten to, is my gardening, right? I've seen Candy's flowers too. I haven't gotten there yet because I've been in the house a whole lot. But my plan is that in the next couple of weeks to actually play in the dirt and start gardening. So there are things that we actually can do to reduce our anxiety. There's three things that I want you all to remember in terms of training your brain to reduce your anxiety. So you all can, if you got a pen or paper, write this down, a pen or pencil and some paper, write this down, or you can just do it on your phone. Part of training your brain to reduce anxiety is tapping in. So tap in to your mind, body, and spirit. What are you feeling? What are you feeling mentally? Do you get headaches? Are you feeling a tightness in your chest? Do you feel like really a spirit of being overwhelmed? If you're feeling those things, it's your responsibility to then begin to, do some things that help you. Like my cousin Craig said, listening to music, journaling, doing your mindfulness and meditation. Maybe you need to move. Maybe you need to stay hydrated. Then tap out. This is really important. So you tap in to yourself. This is training your brain to figure out what's going on with you. It's your responsibility. Then tap out. Tapping out is essential. So the 1 day a week, whatever day you have or whatever, or you can do it a specific time of day. But I did it yesterday. It was a tap out. It was a time of rest and relaxation to recalibrate your brain. To, sometimes your brain just needs to rest. We're constantly thinking and moving in our own heads. The tapes are constantly playing. That increases our anxiety and our stress levels. Asking yourself, when do you tap out? Just like if you were in a game and you tapped out and went to the sidelines, when do you tap out and take a time out in order to rest? Tap in and then tap out, right? And then the third one is that you tap connect, right? That's the positive energy. Who are you tapping to connect with? Is it a person that is speaking life into you? Is it, doing the connecting with, your music, like my cousin Craig? Is it connecting with nature, like I want to do in terms of gardening? But tap in, tap out, and then tap connect. Connecting with people, connecting with things, tap connect. Connecting relationships. We talk about our crew, connecting relationships for epic wins. All of that is important. It is essential in order to decrease our anxiety and decrease our stress and acknowledge that we're human. So we need to do these things in order to be healthier. Our mental health and our well-being is absolutely essential. Listen, guys, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. However, quite frankly, I don't think that we need to just be having a mental health awareness month. We need to have a mental health awareness life, right? Mental wellness is important. It's not something that should be relegated to the sidelines. It's not something that should be relegated to us not paying attention to it. It's not something that we should not be talking about to our loved ones, to the people that we're connected to. We need to level up on how we engage with our own mental health and well-being, as well as others, because the healthier we are mentally, the healthier we're going to be relationally. As long as we are not mentally well, we're not able to be relationally well, right? CREW stands for Connecting Relationships for Epic Wins. Ask yourself, when you're having these courageous conversations, am I healthy? Am I mentally well? If today is a day where my anxiety is through the roof and I'm not mentally well, what are the things that I need to do to help myself to feel better? Now, later in the week, we're going to talk about some more significant things, right? But I do want you all to level up and commit to yourself. Today is going to be a day that I'm going to do the necessary things to level up on my mental wellness. Whatever that looks like for you. If it's the 5 M's, mindfulness, meditation, movement, meaningful engagement, and music, those 5 things, level up on each of them. It doesn't take, we've got apps these days. You can do some mindfulness so that you can stay in the present. That anxiety increases when we're too far in the past, what we didn't do, or we're too far in the future, what we have no control over. Stay in the moment. What can I control today? What can I do to help myself be mentally well today? Stay in the moment. Do some meditation. Get moving. Move your limbs. Take a run or a walk or whatever you need to do, right? And then have these meaningful engagements. I'm prayerful and thankful for you because you all are meaningful engagement to me. And then listen to your music. We're going to take a quick break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back. So stay with us. Our blood vessels, because we get constricted when we get really, really anxious, and it can hurt us in a very difficult way. So anyway, so guys, listen, my prayer, my wish for you today on this absolutely beautiful Monday, when we're in week 8 of our quarantine, this first week of May, Mental Health Awareness Month, my prayer is that you will level up on your mental wellness, that you'll do the necessary things to reduce your anxiety and your stressors, and that you will have a beautiful day. Listen, Morgan and I, we love you. There's nothing you can do about it. If nobody else told you today, we're telling you we love you, and we wish that you have a beautiful day. We will see you back here tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We're going to post the Mel Robbins segment so that you can see that. And have a great day. Have a beautiful day on purpose. From my heart to yours.